Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Well, good morning. This is still Stan, still in Gainesville. And today it's still Light Talk, but it's our 300th show anniversary.
Hi, everybody. This is Anne. I'm coming to you from sunny and gorgeous San Diego, and I wish you a Happy New Year's from Light Talk.
Good morning. This is Brackley coming to you from Las Vegas, and I also want to wish everyone a happy 2023, and this is all on Light Talk.
Oh my, will this never end? This is Zach. I'm coming to you from my secret remote office on the island of Manhattan. And we hope that this Lumen Family episode does not completely turn into chaos.
Oh, he's already projecting the truth.
Hi, this is Ellen from the tropical island of St. Bart, and frankly, I am grateful I am far away from it all, except that Lenny Kravitz and Drake were just here in concert this week.
Lucky you.
That's cool.
Awesome.
Sounds great.
And this is David coming to you from poolside at the Fleur du Havre Resort in Palm Springs, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers.
And sisters.
You better believe that, Ellen. Welcome, everyone, to episode 300. And as you can already tell, the Lumen family has gathered on this special occasion for two reasons. One, to celebrate the ending of 2022 and the beginning of 2023, and the other, which in many intoxicated historians' views, to celebrate the milestone of Light Talk with the Lumen Brothers and Sisters' 300th show. Woo-hoo. Over 5.5 years of questionable knowledge and insanity that we have produced.
I mean, we have gone from ducks to rabid monkeys, 2 theme songs, and 3 law firms. That's a lot of law firms.
That's right. Well, they keep firing us. I can't believe we've been doing this so long. I was ready to quit after year 1. But then they upped my contract. They made, let's put it this way, they made me an offer I couldn't refuse.
You have a contract?
Yes, and disappearing ink.
But we must say that along the way, with hundreds of years of lighting and projection design experience, that makes us sound so old.
We are.
That our family provides. We have had some amazing guests on our show in these over 300 episodes.
They range from industry icons to Broadway designers and directors. Hey, Stan, would you like to name a few?
Not really. That's a long freaking list. But since you insist, I'll give it the old college try. And boy, I'm going to try and stay on track. It all started with our first guest, Joshua White, from the Joshua Light Show. And then they were banging on the door and they started to flock in. So they include Ann Militello, Stephen Shelley, Jim Waits, Michael Clark, John McKernan, Scott Rosenfeld, Stephen Rosen, Kevin Lee Allen, Eric Loder, Don Holder, Brad Schiller, Neil Jampolis, Gordon Perlman, Fred Foster, Paulie Constable, Sarah Clausen, and Ann Valentino, Al Crawford, Driscoll Otto, Bobby Hale, a very good-looking man, Don Chang, Eileen McCarthy, Ken Billington, Steve Cherry, Herrick Goldman, Tom Luttrell, Barbie Harrell, Mark Brickman, Clifton Taylor, Jeff Rabbits, Chad Taylor, Rachel Blackwell, Mark Stanley, Ian Peacock, Adam Honore, Niles Thorkinson, Jen Goldstein, Paula Dinkle, Brian Gale, Thaddeus Strasburger, Paul Curran, Bob Bonial, James Moody, Wendell Harrington, Xavier Pierce, Roma Flowers, Ryan O'Gara, David Gallo, Casey Wilkinson, Jeremy Hopka, Dennis Size, Kurt Vermeulen, Natasha Katz, Joyous Chang, Bradley King, Beverly Emmons, Amy Deluxe, Luther Frank, Susan Rose, and Ethan Steimel. Whoa.
Woo!
That's not everyone.
You did, man. That was
Lions and
awesome.
tigers and bears. Yes, next time you need to write the names out on a music
Yes,
score.
I know.
so you
I
can see
think
where
you
to
should
take
sing
it.
this, Stan.
It's also important to remember that Zach, Ellen, and Ann all started out as guests of the show, and they were so terrific, we decided to adopt them into the family.
And let's not forget many of our sponsors, from Margaritas to Go to Backstage Franks. All of them willing to sell you crap to help you survive in this crazy industry.
Okay, so today we are gathered in a virtual round table with our New Year's Eve traditional virtual turkey and virtual pickled herring, offering an hour of virtual chin wagging over some fun topics. So here's the first one for the group. Why did you agree to be on Light Talk? Was it for the money?
Other podcasts asked me to pay them a lot more money. You guys only asked me to pay a very small amount.
It was certainly for the money. Of course it was for the money, and I've been disappointed ever since.
By 5.5 years of disappointment.
It can't be that much disappointment, Brackley. You have a shot glass, a unsafe coffee mug for your dishwasher, and a limited edition fez. I mean, I would wear.
I don't have the fez. I don't have the fez. We could only afford 5 fezzes, so that was it.
But seriously, why did you agree?
Well, I'll tell you why I did. I've always wanted to be Barbara Walters, so there you have it.
Well, I'll be quite frank. The reason I wanted to be on Light Talk, it was not for the money, even though now I'm upset that Stan has a contract. But I did it because I've known David, Stan, and Steve for many, many years. And to be involved with something like them, it was really intriguing. And if it wasn't for those 3 people, we wouldn't be doing this 300th episode. They really are the driving force of this whole thing. They have been for 5.5 years, but it's been a pleasure to be a part of.
The world's most attractive man, Bobby Hale, said that we would only last 10 episodes. He could not, and he was very nice about it. He said, I can't imagine what you're going to talk about, actually, for 10 episodes.
Tom Littrell said we'd only last 3 episodes.
Well, he's an engineer.
He's retired. Maybe we can get him to be a guest host.
Oh, I like that.
That would be a great idea.
Is that a requirement?
Right,
It could be.
retired.
He's got time.
Since we're talking about Tom and guests, I want to just bring out, because I'm trying to answer this question more seriously. This whole thing started in my brain. In 5.5 years ago, I didn't know what a podcast was. I sort of knew what the word was, but I didn't really know what they were. And at that time, I was working with Scott Rosenfeld, one of our guests, who's at the museum, at Smithsonian. And he said something to me. He goes, I listened to this podcast called Radio Lab. And I said, what's a podcast? And he says, it's this thing called Radio Lab. I listened to it on the train to and from work. It's pretty cool. And that's got me listening to a podcast. And then when everybody else knows the genesis story of how it began, but if it wasn't for Scott planting the notion of there are these things called podcasts, I don't think I would have been part of it at all.
That's interesting. I was a big fan, still am, of Car Talk.
Right.
And when that fateful day when Stan, Steve, and I were on a conference call talking about moving lights and which ones to buy, that one of the things I was discussing was Car Talk and how great it is and how funny it is and how much fun it can be. But something that Stan brought up really early on was the fact that we're 3 educators. I mean, everyone here right now are educators, all 7 of us. But, at the time, there was just the 3 of us, and we're saying this could really offer a service to students. And originally, we were just going to figured maybe our students would be the only ones who listen to it.
Like all 20 of them.
Yeah, right. And that's okay. That was okay. But the bottom line was, again, I hate to repeat myself, was that it was a way for the 3 of us to stay in touch weekly. It really was, because we were talking, to each other constantly.
It was Sunday
anyway.
morning with a cup of tea, with a bagel, right? It was a coffee clutch in a way.
And we have been blessed to have everybody who's part of the Lumen family now, all of our comrades here today, that they were willing to be part of the family and to add so much knowledge to these 3 lighting designers. I mean, it's great to have someone like Ellen there, and of course Zach and his projection design work, Brackley obviously with his entertainment design work. Anne was at the time was still writing her book. I mean, it was amazing to have these specialists, these incredible people, to add more information for our students.
That opened the door for the interviews too, and I think that was really fascinating. That people who we would have said, "Who are you?" would have just were actually interested in saying yes. That really surprised me. That I think that really kind of gave it a stake in the ground, or planting of the flag that we really had something that people were connecting to.
It's interesting you say that, because I met a couple people at LDI last year and again this year who were like, oh my God, I love listening to you on Light Talk. You should do it more often. You guys are great. It's really fantastic. I jog every Saturday morning and I go and I know you're going to be on. And it was really nice, There are listeners. They're out there.
Well, they're out there. Also at LDI, it was amazing for the people that we had put extra chairs in the room.
Right.
Hopefully you didn't have to pay for it, Ellen. But
No.
I got extra chairs in the room, and because it was overflowing.
Yes. And how many countries did you say are on your listeners list?
137 countries and territories.
Wow, that is amazing.
It's kind of weird, too, because you look at the number of downloads that comes in each week, and then you look at the number of outreach that the thing has gone to. So, there are hundreds of downloads every episode, and there are thousands of people who don't download the episode but listen. So there's a lot out there going on.
Yeah, and I want to thank Ellen. I think that Ellen has added so much to our show, and she's the one who really gets these incredible people to talk to us, as guests.
Hey, I brought my childhood babysitter on. Don't forget that.
That's right. And who was that again, Zach?
Yep.
David Gallo.
That's right.
Oh my God,
We found
he's
out
amazing.
everything about Zach's potty habits on that show, if I remember correctly.
Well, speaking of Zach's potty habits, do you guys recall a question or a topic on Light Talk that kind of got you thinking, that maybe challenged you a little bit?
I have one, sort of. I don't know if anyone remembers, but I was actually a guest first. You brought me on to talk about my book, which was just the coolest thing ever. And I had done other podcasts previous, but the very first question was something about PB&J, like how do you like your PB&J or something? And I thought, oh my God, I'm like one of the first women you have, is this hazing? And I was like, what is this the question I get?
Oh,
I was like,
hazing.
oh my God. But then the next question was something
Oh, my
about
God.
touring, and I like threw out my answer, and you were all like, wow, oh hey, okay, you can answer a question. So I just remember thinking like, okay, I proved myself, we're good. And that, was challenging just to like balance that. Yeah.
You obviously listened to our first interview with a woman, who was
Ann
Ann
Militello.
Militello, actually.
Yep.
And I don't know if we were hazing her, but we were talking about some outrageous stuff on that one. That was great.
That was from Goddess Mountain. I was out of town.
Goddess Mountain, exactly. Goddess Mountain.
Okay, I'll answer this one. I think this podcast has taught me something very valuable. It's taught me how to answer a question, a complex question, in a succinct way, which I was not very good at before. I could go on and on and on and on.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Have you noticed that? So self-deprecation is a sign of leadership. But anyway, I remember having to try and explain early on, maybe the first year or the second year, color and its interaction with material and color metrics in a way that and I couldn't go on for more than, I did it in like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And David said, wow. And that really challenged me to explain that complex relationship in a way that was digestible and succinct. So that challenged me.
I still have my students listen to that every year. It's All About Color is the name of that episode.
It's all about color.
Yes, it's all about color. That was like in our first
was.
season.
Yeah, it's
I
episode
believe.
41 or something like that.
Wow, look at that.
Okay. Wow. She knows the episode numbers. It's
Only because it's in my syllabus.
okay. It's amazing how many listeners actually contact us and say, I just discovered your podcast and I started back at episode 1 and I'm now up to episode 178.
I'm just waiting for Light Talk, the recipe book or something like that.
That's
a good
culinary.
idea.
Remember that was at LDI, culinary. The thing that was interest me or challenged me is when we're at LDI and we have a live audience and we don't know what the questions are. We pick them out of that whatever that ice bucket is, and we read them, and we got to answer them right there. They all are very challenging questions because they all want to either get a fez or a coffee cup that they can't put in their dishwasher. I mean, but it's really interesting, the questions that come from the LDI shows.
True.
Well, and it's like talking to two different audiences, because you're talking to the live one and the recorded one, and you have to remember the recorded audience can't see all the things that the live audience can. So that's really interesting to work that out.
This is a slight aside, but at LDI this year we had, about 100 or more young career professionals between the ages of 18 and 25. And we had a little meeting for them the first day, and I had 2 copies of Anne McMill's second edition of her book. And I kind of raffled them off by asking 2 questions. The first one was, what was the first year of LDI? And nobody knew. But I said, so where was it? And somebody did know it was in Dallas. And the second question, I said, what color is R80? And 35 hands flew up.
Red.
That's great.
No, and some young woman said, I've been waiting forever for someone to ask me that question. She got the book.
There you go.
That's great.
It's great when we get questions from our listeners because a lot of times it's like, wow, I never thought about that. That is really interesting. And we know it's sometimes it's hard to come up with a show every week, but the questions are always there. It's really funny. Mm-hmm. And then the Let's Talk About segments are always something that Steve, Stan, me, and whoever's on that show, we say, what do you want to talk about today? Okay, let's talk about this. And that's really a lot of fun. I really enjoy that because it's sort of a deep dig into things that are interesting at the time that may be topical, that's happening at that moment.
Well, we've in that first 2 years, we did 6 questions an episode. And, we now have got that down to about 3 or 4 questions, but still over 6 years, we're knocking on the door of about 2,400 questions that have run through the podcast.
Wow.
That's crazy.
I love how the Let's Talk About topics sometimes kind of come out organically. Like, we're all making small talk in the first few minutes as we're getting ready to record the episode. And we have a pre-selected Let's Talk About. And in our small talk, something will come up and we'll decide that's a better, more interesting topic to discuss. And we'll scrap what we've planned and go right into that. So I really love the organic nature of it.
Challenging, I don't know. There's always something to talk about, and at least usually there are at least 3 people on the show. Okay,
yeah.
At least one of us will know what the hell they're talking about with the question. So
we hope.
Thank God. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to play a little game at this moment. We're kind of in the middle of the show, and where normally we'd have a sponsor, but no sponsors today. But we're going to do a little game. We're going to play a game, and this game is called Infamous Quotes. And the way it works is that I will say a quote from one of the 300 shows that we did, well, actually 299, be technical, and our family must identify who said it. And remember, if you said the quote, you can't say, that was me, okay? So the only person who knows these quotes is me right now. This is a total surprise to my family members here. So here we go. The first quote, sodium vapor, what could go wrong? Who do you think said it?
Steve.
Stan.
No, that's Steve.
I think Stan.
Stan said it? You think Stan said that?
That's got to be
sounds
Steve.
That's
Yeah.
Steve.
Or Steve.
That's Steve.
It's Steve. Right.
Yay,
Good work.
what do we win?
Okay, now you know how it works. Okay, here's the next one.
Yeah.
This next one's easy. I know when my students are successful when they hire me.
Stan.
That's Stan.
That's Stan.
Guilty.
That's correct, Stan. Okay, and here's another one. There is no happy ending to a 10 out of 12.
Ooh, that could be a lot of people.
I've definitely thought that.
I thought that too.
David?
Steve. I'll vote for
Guess.
Steve.
David.
Zach?
David.
No, it's not
Steve.
me. No,
Not
no,
you.
no.
Steve?
Zach.
Oh,
Zach said that.
Zach said that one.
You not only thought it, you
Okay.
said it.
That's right.
And
You actually
then I
said it.
forgot because it was so long.
It was a brilliant quote. Here's another one. It's only rock and roll, but I like it.
Sounds like Mick Jagger to me.
David?
Yeah, Mick Jagger.
Sounds like Ellen to me. Okay, now this is from one of our guests, so this may be a little more difficult. Darling, there is an Aperol Spritz on the table.
Oh,
Stan, could you read all those guest names again so we can clarify?
Not so easily.
That's
What is
from
on the
my-
table? Could you repeat?
It'll come
What is on
right
the
into your
An
head.
Aperol Spritz. An Aperol Spritz.
Oh.
Have you ever had an Aperol Spritz?
It's Strasbourg. It's Strasbourg.
Yes, that's your director buddy.
That's right,
yeah.
Paul
Curran.
Curran.
Okay.
Very good,
It
very
was a
good.
highfalutin opera
Right.
drink.
But it could have been
Yeah.
Thaddeus. He could have said that. Okay, here's another one. Roberta, it's not about you.
Steve.
Nope.
Is this a guest again?
Nope. It's from Stan.
Stan.
Roberta, it's not about Joe.
Okay, now this is again from a guest or a close confidant to the show. What happens in Modesto stays in Modesto.
Is that David?
No, you guys know this.
Oh, Bobby Hill.
Snoot.
Snoot.
Snoot. Okay, this is from a guest, and I think this is an easy one. I believe in people, passion, and innovation.
Fred Foster.
That's right.
Fred
Very
Foster,
good,
yeah.
Stan. Fred
Good,
Foster.
good.
Amazing.
Okay, and this is from one of us. Put some sawdust on my crabs.
That's
Put
got to
some
be
sawdust on
must
my
be
what?
Ellen. That's Ellen.
That's Ellen.
My crabs on my
No.
crabs.
I do
No, it's
not think
Ellen.
I said that.
I know.
You're the guy.
I don't think I know what
You're
I
the one
said.
who cooks
Steve?
frozen octopus.
Yes, well, I didn't actually cook it, but my friends did.
So who said put some sawdust on my crabs?
Steve?
That was Steve.
No, Steve,
Very
okay.
good, Steve. Okay, this is an easy one. LD Island, the musical.
Brackley?
LD Island. Well,
It's
that
one of
must
us.
be me.
That's what, but you can't say that.
It was a surprise to her.
You said,
Yes.
okay,
Yes, that is the beauty of all of us being middle-aged.
okay. This is hard to say because this person actually made up a word in this. Here it is. I was inculated in an incubator.
That could be a lot of people.
That could be anybody, right?
Is that a guest or one of us?
Stan.
It was Stan.
I said that.
Oh.
The inculator.
I was inculated in an incubator.
I don't
yes.
remember saying that at
Oh,
all.
that's
We
funny.
need some context.
Is
I
it
don't
true?
even know what it means.
Well, he was talking about LDI. No, what happened was
Oh, how funny.
it was our show after LDI, and we said, Stan, it was great to have you on the show again. And he said, well, you know, it's been tough for me. I was inculated in an incubator for 2 years.
It's like a Jackie Gleason moment.
No, we don't either. Okay, here's another one. Life is cheap in Florida.
That could be.
And it's not Stan. All right. Nobody? Okay. Steve
You
said that one. This one is from a guest, and I'm sure that someone's going to get it right away. That's some damn good barbecue.
Bobby Harrell.
Bobby
Yes,
Harrell. Yeah.
Bobby Harrell, very good. Here's another one. I would be selling blintzes and knishes on the corner.
That's
David.
that's you.
That's right. That's
I
me.
remember that one.
All right.
Yeah.
This is from a guest. David was playing Inagata Davida on the Mellotron.
I played the fifth.
Snoot. No, it's from a guest, an actual guest.
What's the quote again?
David was playing Inagata Davida on the Mellotron.
Neil Giampoulos.
Nope. Dennis Size. Dennis Size.
Those Dennis sides.
Okay. Two more. Is that junk in your drawers?
Stan.
Steve.
That was Steve. and finally, let's see if you get this one. The longest word that was ever said on Light Talk. Here it is. Techno echo phenomena. Techno echo phenomena.
I'm going to say Steven Rosen.
Nope.
Can you repeat that?
Can you?
Techno echo phenomena.
Techno.
I must have
echo
missed that show.
phenomena.
Phenomena. Luther Frank said that.
Oh.
Oh, I remember that now.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm
Makes sense.
exhausted.
So are we.
That was it. Good work, everybody. Actually, you got most of them. That was very impressive. Okay,
That was
great.
fun.
So, Ellen, let's continue with our second round topics.
Yeah, we're going to continue with our virtual roundtable discussion. What's the funniest thing you heard on this show?
Techno, echo.
Techno, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. The junk in your drawers is
I
pretty
know, the
good.
sawdust on the crabs is still there.
Yeah, the sawdust on the crabs.
Yeah, the quotes you just said were the funniest things we've heard.
Well, I can tell you the funniest thing I never heard because while you guys were doing the live show in Las Vegas, I was in the room next door with Casey Wilkerson giving a presentation, and we were interrupted constantly by roaring laughter.
Oh, really? Oh, no. Sorry.
No, it's totally fine. It helped break up the session.
Yeah. What's going on next door? Shut up.
Let's go there.
Pound,
Yeah.
pound, pound on the wall.
It was those strange men in the fez.
Right. They're like, we paid good money to find out about projection mapping on the castle.
That's right.
And people are talking about fezzes in the other room.
I remember one episode when we were talking to Don Holder, and it seems to me that he was talking about some days at Yale were more difficult than other days. And the way he got through that was he would go back to his apartment and play his tuba.
Yeah. That's
You know, he was in the marching band, and the tuba brought him relief. That's also when we decided we started wanting to ask our musical friends if they wanted to sit in on the Light Talk theme jam sessions.
The Luminoids.
Yes.
I think I
was-
remember Ken Billington talking about how it all started for him in junior high school.
Yes.
And I think he was playing the gingerbread man. And they needed a blackout. And I had this image of little Ken in a gingerbread costume. That cracked me up.
Well, and he wasn't doing a very good job. So the
Right.
teacher banned him from the stage and made him sit by the light board. And he
That's right.
found his calling there.
That's right.
You know, I still like the lawyers. Like, I can't even remember the original lawyers, but I loved them. And now we've got Snoot and Flocked and, all the different ones. That I just think they're so fun. Flocked, Flecked, were those the original ones?
No, Flop, Fleck, Flair, and Glitter was the second. That was the second firm. Who was the first firm? Does anybody remember?
Yes, it was the law firm of Tungsten, Phosphor, and Shyster. But, one of Anne's great contributions to the show was basically getting us back on track and saying, hey, this is a lighting podcast, right? And we came up then with Flecked, Flocked. Was it Flare, Glare?
Fleck, Flack, Flare, and Glare.
Flare, Glare. That was
Glare.
good.
We had a debate about whether the inside of a top hat was flecked or flocked. And we had
Flocked.
to research that.
We did.
It's Flocked, it's Flocked.
Silly.
You mean to tell me this podcast is funny?
It tries to be.
I must say, it is
Only
funny.
by accident.
But you know
Oh my
who the
God.
funniest people are on this podcast, I must say, are my colleagues here. I mean, I laugh constantly at what Steve says. Steve has an incredible dry sense of humor that is
he's a
really
straight man.
hysterical.
He's got the one-liners.
And I'm going to tell
Yeah.
you what the funniest moment for me on the podcast, back in the first season, maybe in the second season, he would talk about his mother on Clinch Island, right? Clinch Island? Clinch
Oh, yeah.
Mountain.
Clinch Mountain.
Clinch Mountain.
Clinch Mountain, Tennessee.
And he tells the story once about how she was attacked by a rabid dog.
Yes.
And it was one of the it's a terrible thing when this happened. And nobody was injured except for the dog, obviously, passed away because he was rabid. But just the story
Well, the
itself.
bullet had a lot to do with that, too.
Yeah, the bullet did. But it's it was one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life. And the stories that he'd tell about his mom. And the one about, chopping wood, because she was out chopping wood. We're saying, how old's
I
your
remember
mom
it.
chopping wood? It was
92.
crazy. Yeah, nuts, totally nuts. So that was really funny.
Well, I will bring back in a couple episodes the Appalachian Trail Death March that I went on with my
Yeah,
mother.
there you go. They're hysterical.
And then we had a guest on a few weeks ago, Susan Rose, who lives right down the road, right?
Yeah, 35 miles from me.
She was hysterical. I couldn't stop laughing. And the whole idea about, was it Amy Deluxe with the van? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Amy, don't rock the van.
The vans are rocking, don't come a knocking. That was really, really a funny episode, too.
They were both great guests.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ellen, for
Well,
it.
they have that rock and roll flair. That's what they brought to the show. They're not worried about Hamlet.
Also, hearing the stories of the tour bus by Tom Luttrell and also Jim Waits, who toured
Waits,
together in the early days of Their Light, that was pretty funny too. Usually our guests bring really great humor to the show. We've been actually very lucky with our guests. We haven't had a bad guest yet. I mean, usually someone's going to not be very good on on doing a talk show. They may be nervous or whatever. But every single one of all those guests were fabulous people and really brought a lot to the show.
Yeah, I think I would just credit the culture that this family has created. I think there's a level of comfort and authenticity in the way that we communicate. It's not stilted. It's not overly scripted. People just feel comfortable in the space with us, and I think we should always keep that. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, by the time we finish with everyone, they all want to come back.
Nice.
And we've had some repeats. Dennis has
Surprising.
repeated.
Episode
Yeah,
10.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Year 12.
Yeah.
So, Ellen, what's our last topic of the day?
What is your New Year's lighting resolution? What would you never do again?
That's an easy one. I am never going to miss another LDI.
Oh, yeah, that was the first one. We missed
Yeah,
you,
we
Steve,
missed you, man.
on the panel.
I'm never going to do a design again that doesn't have a keynote that says, this technology is subject to change, because it seems that every time I design something, by the time it goes to bid or whatever, it comes back. We have something better than that now. and it's $1,200 more. So it just happens all the time. So I'm always going to sort of now put that in all of my designs, that whatever you see on these drawings and in these specs is subject to change because the technology keeps changing so quickly. Yeah.
Well, especially between the time you put in the bid and the time you go to like screw in the fixtures.
Yeah, I mean,
know?
it's just it's literally sometimes that close, and sometimes it's already a contract has been let, and we have a better thing now, and it'll cost you less. We can't change it because then you have to redo all the drawings and whatever. So I was thinking about that question, like, what would I not do? And that keeps coming up. So it just makes more work. So slow down, industry, slow down a little bit.
What about you, Brackley? What would you never do again?
I would never light on a 10-scene preset again, ever.
Oh, that's fun.
I don't think I have a problem with that
but
one.
I have a New Year's lighting resolution, a possible one for Light Talk. It would be great to have more students on the shows again. We had one last year, Jordan.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think either a student or a young professional, as one of the Lumen people, I think would be great because they have a good perspective because we're not getting any younger.
As a host, you're suggesting, as guest host?
As a host, yeah. Because we're not getting any
Lumens
younger.
program.
Young Lumens.
A little Lumens
Little
program.
Lumens. I like that.
A Lumen. I'm just saying it'd be great to have that. It's great to have that younger perspective on the show.
Be
That's
the
That's a
Lumen
great
bugs.
idea.
The Lumen Youngins.
Yeah, right. We have a lot of them, at LDI in our Foster the Future program, so we could look at some of them as well.
yeah. Or I like the fact that we give away at LDI. We've done it the past 2 years, and I mean the people have been younger. I mean that's just been a happenstance.
Look, everybody in that room are younger than us. Come on, let's be honest.
True.
I saw 3 people that weren't.
They were all on your left.
That's right. That's right. They were all on your left.
That's right.
Except for Ann.
Oh, they were because I was all the way on the right. I forgot.
That's funny.
New Year's lighting resolution. Well, I will never again question people's good intentions. And a lot of it has to do with the show because I've grown very close with all of you. And I realize there are good people out there, lots of good people out there. And I was very cynical, still a little cynical at times. But I think this show's got me out of that. And I think that's really great. I've gotten very close with everybody here. And I want to thank you all for being so kind and so giving. And it's huge. It really is. And for our guests.
Cue
too.
the music. Cue the music.
No, it's not done yet.
Bring in the violins.
I think we should go to the letters. Let's go to the letters from listeners.
Okay, and finally, I get the ooey gooey squishy part to introduce. We asked our listeners to send in their comments on how Light Talk has changed their lives. And the emails flooded in and overwhelmed our staff at Light Talk Central. I hope we gave them a bonus for Christmas there. So here are a few. Brackley, why don't you start?
I got from John in Chicago. He says, "Love the show. More free stuff, please."
That's it? More free
Okay.
We'll
stuff.
work on that, John.
More coffee cups that you can't put in the dishwasher.
And then we have this from our good friend Dennis Size. There can't be anyone in our galaxy who, after listening to Light Talk, hasn't been influenced for the better in some way. I know that I am forever indebted to the Lumen brothers because if it weren't for them, I never would have known about Bumwad. Have a joyous New Year's Eve and best wishes for a prosperous and happy 2023. Well, thank you, Dennis. That's really sweet of you.
And from Ingrid in Atlanta, I listened to your interview with Ethan Steimel. I ended up losing all my money on Dogecoins. Thanks for nothing, Ethan. So let me just point out, I don't remember Ethan ever saying anything about cryptocurrency.
He didn't.
So, nah. You made the mistake, Ingrid, not he.
I think I get to delve into the depths of the heart of the Lumen brothers from one of our great fans, Drew Belinsky. And he says, and I quote, "The Lumen brothers and sisters have been some of the best long-distance mentors and teachers I've ever had during my 14-year career in lighting. Listening to a new podcast episode of Light Talk every Saturday is the best way to start my weekend. And while I enjoy a hot cup of coffee in my cherished and priceless Light Talk mug, to everyone at Light Talk, thank you all for the hard work you do and for keeping my passion for lighting and entertainment production parked at full.
I love
That's
that.
sweet.
That's
Parked
great.
it full. Park this.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Drew.
Thank you, Drew. That was nice.
That's so sweet.
Yes,
was
and,
nice.
and now the polar opposite of sentimental value from Ira in Madrid. Where can I find some rabid monkeys for my game room? I can understand what they are saying, and they're the most intelligent comments on your show.
Well, I've got one from Byron who says, congratulations on your 300th episode. That is a ton of insanity, duck, and monkey droppings to clean up. There are a few reasons why Light Talk changed my life. The usual of which is being all of the new information that constantly teaches me new things, techniques I didn't know about. But the main reason, which I am forever grateful, is all of the humor and the skills of the people on the show that keep inspiring me to do what I love, to keep that passion burning, and to remind me to push through the imposter syndrome that rears its ugly head at every show I design. Well, thank you, Byron, for having confidence in us.
Nice, Byron.
And we all have that imposter syndrome, Byron, so hang in there.
We do.
From another insightful listener, it's from Paula in Wisconsin. Quote, I find your show a total waste of time. But for some reason, I keep wasting my time listening to you. Keep up the good work.
She's got a good sense of humor, Paula.
That's funny.
Let's see, from David and I's neighbor in California, John, he says, I just want to say that I've been listening to Light Talk for a long time, and I love hearing from the brothers and sisters. I got my BA 30 years ago, then dived into freelancing, and I now teach at a community college. Even after doing this so long, I still feel like I learn something new every time I tune in, and I think I'm a much better teacher for it, especially being able to vicariously keep up with the latest technology. Oh,
That's great.
That just came in
I like
yesterday.
that one.
Yeah,
I
that's
think.
I got a
nice.
little
These are
teary
real.
on that one.
These are real emails.
And
Yeah.
finally, from Patty in London, I cannot tell you how informative and vital your show is, so I won't.
Well, that's honest.
Snarky, I love it.
Now, I have a little surprise because I just thought about this, but it's a question for Ellen. And before we end the show, I just had this question. Ellen once wrote a review of our show when we first
Yes.
came out. And
remember.
Ellen said something in the review. It was a lovely review, by the way. Thank you, Ellen. But she said something like, you should listen to this show and maybe you'll learn how to cook a good pot roast. What did you mean by that? I just want to know.
Well, I just thought that, since you're talking about everything, I thought maybe, you or Stan would share your grandma's recipe,
She's, you know what? Since you're going back to that pot roast quote, Ellen said something else that really humbled me at the time. And I didn't know if it's true, if it was true then or if it's true now. But if it's true, I'm really humbled that we're making that kind of contribution. She said, and Ellen, you'll remember this, she said, the new voice of the industry. And I thought, that's a heaping lot of something to say. Did you really mean that?
I did, because, it's really interesting. It sort of synthesized a lot of things. I think you were sort of the first podcast out there. I'm not sure when, Marcel started Geezers of Gear or any of the other podcasts that are out there. I know that, definitely Corey Paddock and Ethan Steinwell and those people came later. I'm not sure about Marcel. And I just thought that, that you guys were really refreshing and bringing something new to the table. And those hundreds of years of experience were all right there.
Well, thank you, Ellen.
I guess I have to extend my contract for another 6 years.
Wait a minute. What is this contract stuff again?
We'll get you up to speed. We'll catch you up, Brackley.
I'm left out.
Well, take
catch you
it. We
up.
have some fezzes we can pay you with, so don't worry about it.
Oh, boy.
Your weight in pheasants.
So we have run out of time for this New Year's Eve 300th episode show. We'd like to thank all of our listeners from the depth of our soul and our lights who listen to us. We have no idea how many of you are out there. But as we have mentioned before, we have over 350,000 downloads lurking in somebody's iPhone somewhere. Many of our many from our adopted territory, as you all know, the Faroe Islands, where we'll be holding our 600th episode anniversary live. So there seems to be a lot of you there because the Faroe Islands, we're still coming.
McMurdo Station, you're still dead to me. I don't know what you guys are doing in Antarctica. Listen to the damn podcast. And if you do, I want to thank you for listening. And I want to thank all of our listeners for listening and to have a safe and wonderful New Year's.
Happy New
Year.
Everybody. Well, the rocking sounds of the Luminoids tells us that once again you've spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website on lighttalk.org and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast.
That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
just remember, if you decide to litigate, our latest law firm, the Snoop Group, with the legal team of Sparks, Burnout, and Chase, will defend us until they fire us. Oh, excuse me, until our retirement funds are depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen brothers and sisters, coming to you from Las Vegas, San Diego, St. Bart's, Washington, D.C. Oh, I heard Manhattan instead. Palm Springs, Gainesville, and the Republic of Texas.
And be sure to join us next week in 2023 when we talk about more lighting shenanigans and serve you more of our casserole of nonsense and pot roast.
This is Snoot. As the attorney representing this podcast, please be advised everything you have just heard is questionable.
Yikes. So we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Happy New Year's, everyone, and bye-bye from Light Talk. Bye, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bye-bye.